This is the Selected Podcast, your backstage pass and exclusive access to some of the biggest names in the tech industry. Brought to you by Sesamers, the definitive name in tech event media.
Hi there, this is Ben from Sesamers, recording live at Slush 2024 in Helsinki. We're speaking with extraordinary leaders who are transforming industries and tackling the planet's more urgent challenges through innovation and collaboration. Today, I am thrilled to be joined by Lubomila Jordanova, the co-founder and CEO of Plan A. Lubomila leads a European-based decarbonization and policy alignment software. Since its launch in 2017, Plan A has supported over 1,500 companies in reducing their emissions by an average of 8% annually. Hi Lubomila, how are you doing?
Hi, fantastic to see you, and always a pleasure at Slush to catch up and meet all the relevant stakeholders in the tech industry.
Tell us about the background, what inspired you to start Plan A and how it evolved since then.
2017 was the year when we launched, and I must say the total perception of the topic of climate change was incredibly different. There was no regulation of the same scale as we have today, and also all the stakeholders involved in changing the way the economy perceives the value of our environment were not as informed. Today we are in a different setup, and if I can bring us back to the moment of what inspired the setting of the company, there's definitely been the concern that the science is there, but it's not translated into a business KPI that can also support businesses to scale while being good to the planet.
And tell me, really, like the first time I saw your platform, it was very different. I don't want to shame you. Just tell me, what was it?
Yeah, it was, first of all, pivot number 5 when
Already?
you saw it.
Yeah.
So by now, it lives a different life with the definition Decarbonization Policy Alignment Platform. At that time, it was simply a pie chart, which was showing basic data assessments of the environmental footprint of a company, some suggestions on how you can improve, but literally change your office light bulbs, going to the level of that detail, to essentially navigate businesses to kick off the sustainability topic in their company.
When we met, you were at the founding stage. You were just the co-founder team, right? The founding team, I think.
2017, I found the company by myself.
Yeah.
I've been lucky to be joined a few years later by my French co-founder, Nathan, and we have been working together since on shaping the value proposition as it looks today.
So around that time, this is when we met. How big is the company today?
We are 150 in terms of numbers of people, and we're sitting between Paris, London, Munich, Berlin, Stockholm, and a few fantastic people from the team are also in Spain, Italy, and the Netherlands.
How much have you raised so far?
Around 44 million.
When you were starting in 2017, did you expect that?
No, I kicked off with the wish to have a tangible contribution to the problem that I hadn't identified by studying the science. I wasn't coming in from the greed or vanity perspective. I was fascinated by the fact that technology can optimize the finding of solutions and the engagement of a lot of stakeholders at the same time. But from today's perspective, still, given we're driven by these values, even 7 years now down the line, it has been and it will be driven by the fact that we have a big problem that, if we're not fast enough, would not be solved before we're
What is the timeline
away.
for you?
Statistically, if we look at tangible action that can be implemented at scale, we're talking about 2035 to be a deadline for industry to shift. Any of the 2050 KPIs and net zero goals are already quite significantly delaying the likelihood of a lot of geographies of this planet to be livable.
So tell us, what is exactly what the software does?
We've developed a platform that enables businesses to calculate the return on investment on sustainability and be compliant alongside of this. It looks at, in some cases, more than 20 million data points a month to automatically prescribe the ways in which you can improve your performance, tangibly calculated in terms of the cost that it will be occurred or saved by the business, and also by the stakeholders that would need to be involved, be it your suppliers, be it other value chain participants. And alongside of this, you have the ways in which we can report according to different standards like CSRD and
What
other.
is it? What is CSRD?
CSRD, sorry for the letter soup, in our industry, it's quite common. It's the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive.
Okay.
It's a big legislation that came in power this year for 75% of the European Union economy by 2028. And it essentially asks for not only a report on your status quo as it looks today, but also looking into a forward-looking plan on how you're going to improve.
What is unique about your software? Because I've seen a lot of them popping up.
Yeah, we have a big focus on this action piece. So how does a business actually transform? Because the analytics work, this data gathering and assessment is something that, thanks to the fact that my team is built up of engineers and data geeks coming also from the climate angle, has allowed us to really be incredibly precise, not only on the scientific, but also on the kind of analytics side. But what happens after you get the data is what really matters, because a business of the likes of Chloe, BMW, the European Commission, Apex, and many others of our 1,500 clients require the likelihood assessment of how their value chain will be transformed, how much money they can save by being good to the planet, but also to their own economical performance. And what it will take for these steps to be implemented. We have been able to see incredible results, and what our platform has achieved is to really drive this change operationally within the business, making sure that a lot of people collaborate together on this. They can work together on the platform to push for this change to happen. And finally, for the data to show the tangible shifts, and for you to learn with the data how you can further improve.
I have many questions, but one that I just want to cover quickly. How much of your work is enabled nowadays by, let's say, the recent AI innovation?
Quite a lot. It's something that has obviously popped up maybe in people's minds only for the last few quarters, but for us, it was inevitable to work with extensive amounts of data, and of course finding different ways to optimize the data gathering in particular. Just for those of the listeners that are not fully informed about how it goes about within our own context, to find data, if a company that is building a physical product needs to assess its environmental performance, they would need to look at materials, supplies, transportation, logistics, distribution, marketing even. Also, how does the employee travel to the office? All of these data points are sitting in different systems, but in some cases, they don't even exist in a system. You maybe don't know all the employees of your company and how they get to the office. Is it a bike? Is it a bus? Is it a car? So we've been able to build a predictive model that uses also AI that is able to predict the highest level of accuracy that a business can achieve in order to get to this moment where they can get the aha plan of how do we change. In the case when data is missing, we also use AI to fill in the gaps, because quite often maybe you don't know.
Can you use data based on, let's say, factors that you've seen in other similar businesses, now that you have the 1,500? Or it's very separated in silos and you don't really look into patterns or stuff like that?
Spot on question, because actually we were pushed into learning how we can be as fast as possible to serve as many companies as possible, because from the get-go of the company, we decided that we want to be working across industries, which is not the most conventional choice you can make. But so far, 7 years down the line, it has worked really well. We work with massive automotive like BMW, Audi, big fashion conglomerates, Gani, Philippa K, Copenhagen Fashion Week, Chloe, others, and also big banks, BNP, Deutsche Bank, and so on. And in order to cover the needs of these companies, you need to obviously look at different data points. But even if you focus on the cohort of the particular companies, you need to understand the benchmarks within these institutions. Maybe, you're one bank, but the data from other banks can support your transition as well. And we believe that it's best if businesses can skip steps, if they can be as fast as possible.
Yeah.
Hence why diving into this data and these benchmarks has been incredibly important.
Yeah, I got it. I was reading your last newsletter. We're going to talk about how thought leadership, public speaking had such an influence in your business, how you've been growing. But I was looking into the last one that you published on LinkedIn. You were talking about the carbon bubble, and I was wondering, is that you mentioned that it's a growing concern. How do you see this impacting kind of the economy and the goals that you presented earlier in the next few years, next 10 years? And what is it? What is the carbon bubble first?
So the carbon bubble is this concept that has been established by scientists decades ago of the overvaluation of fossil fuel companies based off of the fact that due to new legislation, quite a lot of land would not be possible to explore anymore for new oil reservoirs. And for the people that are not fully informed about this industry, actually the oil and gas industry is heavily dependent on subsidies. And the valuations obviously are based off of the amount of money that are sitting in the bank, that are coming from the continuous flows related to the use of the natural resource. But there's a lot of building blocks that actually add up to the stability of this market share or market hike, so to say. The carbon bubble is particularly concerning for financial institutions because it's considered that if you are heavily reliant on fossil fuel-based assets, you might actually be quite quickly burned because the legislation is changing fast. Climate change is already coming at a high cost. Just as an example, to make it incredibly practical, 2-3 weeks ago, there was the Hurricane Milton. Mm-hmm. The cost for that is 40 billion. And if you combine these two things, like the overvaluation and also the cost that maybe is not fully accounted for, be it because it's not embedded in the way insurance happens, be it because financial institutions are not fully covered on how to perceive that, you're looking at a lot of stranded assets. Essentially, the concern is on an economic level, it's on a financial institution level, and it's beyond now the scientific community. And we work with a lot of financial institutions, and what we see as a moving pattern is that they are putting aside a lot of money for decarbonization financing and also for this transition management so that they can support their clients to really move away from any unstable or heavily overvalued kind of setups.
Do you see these conversations happening at certain events? Like, I don't know if you were at the Climate Week in New York, for example. Is it a conversation that is already out there, or you are kind of the forefront of this line, of thinking?
I can think of so many examples where, because we live with this scientific thought on a daily basis within the company, we often feel like it's a commonplace for us, but for many people, maybe it's not the day-to-day discussion. We're a mathematics company. We're a data company. We look at data. We have a massive scientific team, and I don't allow myself to express opinions. I just always make sure that anything that I say is backed by information that would support our clients to make sure that they make the best economic decisions. So with that in mind, for the groups that are connected to us, this information is not new. For the circles which you maybe see or kind of a part of in events, it really depends on the topic of the event. If we look at formats like WEF, this is a lot more front page. Yeah.
What is WEF?
The World Economic Forum. If you look at events that are a bit more diverse shareholder, stakeholder gathering, it would be definitely something that you might hear. If you talk about a tech event, we still hear debates about the importance of offsetting or carbon removal because at the end of the day, this is the place where you try to find a lot of common ground about what's the next hype within a particular domain.
I was interviewing Marta from Payball yesterday.
Oh, I had a fangirl. Like, she's a really good friend. She's fantastic and, important mission.
So how many events you were mentioning? We're getting into this area. You said like 3 or 4 different type of events right now. And earlier you were telling me that you've done 200 speaking engagement this year.
Yep.
How many did you get? How many invitations you get in a week?
Between 40 and 100. It's quite a bit busy, but we make sure that we show up where we could be useful.
No.
Yeah,
I'm not going to judge the fact that you have 200 speaking engagement. I think it is obviously impressive, and it's part of how you've been approaching your mission in this industry. Can you walk us through this journey, like from pitching at Paris Summit to going to World Economic Forum in less than 7 years? How do you do that?
It has been overwhelmingly important in the day-to-day of building Plan A to continuously translate the science into business lingo. And what this has meant for me as the CEO and founder of the company has been to take as many opportunities as possible, be it in the beginning through pitching or later on through speaking engagements, to explain to people how they can be part of the change without making them feel guilty, which is the usual context in which climate change is mentioned. With this in mind, the journey has been, in the beginning, first to do all the startup activities, the tick boxes that you have. I think I pitched my life away. I was literally booking as many, even just meetups where people would just give you feedback, and quite harsh feedback on what you can improve, because there was not even a price at the end of the experience, but it teaches you on how to go in front of an audience, to formulate your sentence, explain to someone that something is important, or at least convince them that they should listen to you, which is by itself quite difficult. And by now, I always try to be as practical as possible and also bring something new to the table. I don't think anyone needs to know that climate change is a problem, because at least the places that we choose to speak at, it's not anymore a debate, but we aim on making sure that people find the angle through which they can connect to the topic.
How do you do that? You work with your team internally, you have yourself, you're the one kind of leading this editorial approach, like customizing your message or your stories to different
It's me. I spent not anymore a lot of time on preparing for public speaking, but I do enjoy the geeking in a lot of technical information that then can allow for a unique connection angle to the audience, be it about particular types of materials or a transition piece that has been totally ignored because it has been considered as expensive, but there's now a new breakthrough allowing for this to be maybe approached from a different angle. We have, of course, a fantastic team, but it has been part of the Plan A ethos to shape the message, shape the discussion, shape the discourse and the narrative, making sure that for whatever the industry and kind of the dynamics of the topic looks like, it is driven by science and is driven by facts and also by positivity, which is not the usual case.
The newsletter that I mentioned earlier that you publish on LinkedIn has like close to 100,000 subs or something like that, right?
Yeah.
You do it yourself with some help?
No, it's
Not
actually,
anymore?
so there's two newsletters. One is the Climate of Business, and this is the one that you're mentioning. I'm really proud of the outcomes of it because it's more than like now close to 200 editions. And the idea is each week, summary of the top news of related to climate change and business, and then a deep dive into a particular topic that is explained in a way that someone that doesn't do anything with climate can understand. And then the other newsletter that is more recent, and I think it's important also to mention, is the Green Career Digest. And this is for people that are looking into transitioning from a job perspective. There's an expectation that there will be actually a few million jobs only open until even end of the year and the first quarter of next year for the green transition only in Europe. So quite a lot to consider, and also quite a lot of opportunities for people that are looking for a new way to engage with this problem. And there I just give tips on how to think about your definition as a professional in a new format without thinking that you really need to start from scratch when you're moving into sustainability. The fact checking is done by the team because there's in today's AI soup of information, I think it's quite easy to find a lot of opinions and maybe pieces that are not necessarily confirmed. And in Plan A, one of our mottos is "In science we trust." So
I was wondering just earlier, one of the challenges that I can imagine you have by being so visible publicly and being, here, you're taking the time for this podcast where you are super busy. I'm sure you have a lot of meetings to do, but you still, take the time to spend time with us. Is how do you sort of tie this to your role as a CEO? The expectation, I would imagine, any investor or even, maybe some of your colleagues would be like, oh, she's traveling, she's out there, How do you handle that?
Yeah, I love it. When was it? I remember I was like a few weeks ago speaking at an event, and one person actually that was supposed to present me to go on stage asked me, so I introduced you as a LinkedIn influencer. And I was like, oh, wow. And I did give a brief preaching speech saying that I'm first and foremost CEO that has allowed me to develop a voice, but everything else is a byproduct. I actually spent quite some time in the last 2 years on learning how to do insanely accurate and specific time management. And it really is for someone that has a level of OCD that is maybe for someone unperceivable, but I truly believe that if you're given X amount of hours in a day, you can always do more in them, but by doing less. It's about quality, it's not about quantity. So I've been spending a lot of time on mental health training, also the psychology of work, collaboration and optimization related to certain frameworks. And through that, I actually have been able to optimize my time quite nicely. I have some rituals that I follow to make sure that any travel that I do is incredibly useful. I never go to an event if there's no angle where I can support the team, be it for hiring, be it for sales, or essentially an announcement for a particular product that we're doing. But I am an incredibly commercial person. My job is actually to support the sales and the partnerships teams and the customer success teams of Plan A. We have a CPO, so he deals on the product side, and then also a CFO who deals with the operational level topics. So I know the whole pipeline of the company. I know all the deals, when are they closing, what's going on. So I'm deep into the day-to-day, but the travels helps a lot, especially it acts as a continuation of these activities because it just helps you tremendously on understanding where the market is, what is an opportunity maybe for client, prospect, partnership that you didn't think of, understanding the local perception. And that happens by being incredibly disciplined with your time. I have limited my coffee consumption. I don't drink alcohol. So there's a lot of things that you do and it ends up helping a lot.
How many reports do you have?
Depends on how you define it, in the sense that the C-suite reports into me, but we're quite I would say, open to structural we're not a hierarchical company. Mm-hmm. There's no people calling in and then explaining themselves. There's no need for that. It's more collaborative approach that we're taking to doing business. And I would say that there's 3-4 people that I work really closely with from the management. CPO, CFO, also our VP Legal, Compliance and People and Culture, VP Strategy, and also VP Sales and Partnerships, and also our marketing lead. And then essentially we navigate the dynamics of a lot of topics and make sure that there's always excitement in the team, always a lot of productivity, and everyone gets to do their job.
How far do you see yourself in this journey?
I've learned from the past, and I'm sitting today. Today is the only moment that I have, and I try not to project myself too much in the future because it's counterproductive for the team as well. The timeline with which we work is actually quite extended because of the problem that we're solving. It's been a conscious decision to choose particularly even shareholders and partners such as the big banks, such as some Silicon Valley funds that have supported us to make sure, and also founders of companies like Supercell, Volt, that have invested in Plan A, that understand that if you're talking about climate change, you can't deal with anything but the ever-changing ecosystem and environment that you deal with, because even climate change is hitting us harder than expected on a daily basis. So I do my best today. Tomorrow is going to be a good day, I'm sure, but I wouldn't know.
What's your goal here at Slush?
Slush is incredible because you're able to catch up. I feel like it's a family gathering. I've seen so many people that have supported Plan A, people that I'm mentoring, also a lot of people that are from the Green Tech Alliance. There's a lot of also collaborators as clients and other even prospects. And this is a good opportunity to do the yearly Helsinki check-in. And also, I find it incredibly insightful to see how the Finnish startup ecosystem is developing, because it has been important for us to start scaling in Scandinavia, and it's quite a special setup that they have here.
Yeah. What do you mean?
It's similar to a few other ecosystems where there's an openness to look on the outside, but there's a lot of seclusion and care and love for supporting the internal content and ecosystem. And in my view, this creates a lot of strength, and a lot of other ecosystems can learn from that. But you can see that there's, especially in the last 2 years, a big push for this to become a European hub more than anything else, which obviously with places like the one where you live, where we have our offices, there's still Europe-wide, I think, agenda for...
You're originally from Bulgaria.
Yes, but I've been living for the last 7 years in between Berlin, Paris as well, and before that I was in Bangkok, Barcelona, Frankfurt, Vienna, and for a decade in London. So it's been quite a lot of places, and yeah, studying the startup ecosystems in all of them has been fascinating as well.
You could write a book about it at some point.
It'll come.
Anything else you'd like to share with our audience today? Where can they learn more about Plan A, maybe career opportunities?
We have actually exciting open positions at the moment. People can get in touch also with me on LinkedIn. And the final thing that I wanted to mention, because it has popped up in quite a lot of conversations with entrepreneurs in the last few weeks, is keep up the positive engagement. I'm just coming back from Boston. I was speaking at Harvard a few weeks ago, and I think there's a dynamic, especially as we are always on the receiving side of what the economic situation is across the globe, because just the startup ecosystem is kind of down the line in terms of even money distribution. It's incredibly important for us to know that this innovation vehicle that we are part of is critical, especially for these times, because it allows for the reinvention of the wheel in a new format. And actually, austerity helps a lot to do this a lot faster and in a more efficient manner. We are privileged to work in this maybe a bit more chaotic environment, but we need to know that it comes at a cost. So, yeah.
Startup innovation thrives in times of crisis.
Yeah, always fun, as long as you take care of your mental health.
Got it. Thank you, Lubomila, for your time today.
Thank you so much.
We're live from Slush 2024 in Helsinki. I want to thank again the Slush team, especially Hila and Aino, for making this conversation possible. Don't forget to subscribe to the Selected podcast for more stories on climate tech innovation and hopefully building a sustainable future. See you soon on Sesamers.